Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to another video. In this one, I'm doing a much requested video on my favorite books. And if you know me personally, you know I'm a reader. I've got a lot of books on hand at any given time. I've got a little mini library over here, and now I've got a stack of books for you guys. And this is probably, I've seen a lot of people do this, recommended reading like video before, but I've never seen somebody recommend this many books. So you're in for a bit of a treat. Every single one of these books has been incredibly life-changing for me. And just so you know a bit more about me, just in case you're new to the channel, I'm a digital marketer. I run a digital marketing agency. People pay me anywhere from like $1,500 to like $10,000 to run their marketing for them. And because of that, I have to know a lot about digital marketing, so I've got some of that in here. And then as well, I'm a Christian, so there's some of that in here as well, and like capitalism, Christianity, how that works, and entrepreneurship, and lots of books on that subject. And then I sort of identify in the personal development space, so I have like a lot of personal development, personal change books in here. And there's actually one in here that isn't a physical copy, it's actually an Audible, because I don't have the physical copy, but I'll recommend it as well. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 books if I remember the 2 that I want to recommend to you that I don't have in this stack. So let's just get right going into it. I'm not going to waste any time with an intro or anything like that. Just want to talk about the books individually. So starting off with Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets. If you're a digital marketer and you have a business that is run off of your brand, I highly recommend that you read this book. It's sort of personal branding 101. Super simple stuff if you're advanced in digital marketing, but if you're new to it, I highly recommend that you read it because it'll help you understand what it actually means to run a business off of your brand and your personal brand, and how to maybe even sell information products like I do, courses, and how to really just how to understand, like it's really how a lot of the big people run their business, like people like Tai Lopez or like Grant Cardone or like even Gary Vaynerchuk, even though he doesn't really sell a course. This is like, how to build something off of your brand. So, really powerful book, highly recommend it. Next on the list is a book that I actually haven't fully finished, but I'm like really far into it. And this is called Money, Greed, and God. It's basically, a lot of Christians deal with the feeling of like, is capitalism really good? Should I really be out there to make money? And this book argues like a hard yes. You should absolutely strive to make as much money as possible. And it talks about capitalism, and it talks about what it really means to be a capitalist. It's a beautiful book, a little controversial because capitalism is maybe under attack by some people in American, maybe Western culture. But I really like the subtitle, Why Capitalism is the Solution and Not the Problem. Really powerful read for anybody who's new to business. I feel like if you feel as if what you're doing in business is morally wrong in some way, then it's going to hold you back. And that was something that I dealt with for a long time, and that book really clarified a lot of that for me. Next book, this is the first businessy book that I ever read. It's called Rework by Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansson. This is the book where I learned, a lot of people say, oh, you learn more from your failures than you do your successes. And they starkly disagree with that. They don't say avoid failure, but they do say reverse engineer your successes. Like what worked, figure out why it worked. And that's why I got into digital marketing, because as a beginner entrepreneur, I ran a wedding photography business, and that wedding photography business went so well that people started asking me how I did it. So I made a course, and I sold the course online, and the course made a ton of money. And so ever since, I've studied digital marketing because I wanted to reverse engineer why that worked. And so now that's become my whole career, and now I help businesses launch their company, or businesses launch their business, and I help course sellers sell more courses through my programs and my agency. And there's, this is a huge turning point for me. It talks in here about how your successes are more valuable than your failures. And if you can reverse engineer why success worked, then you've got miles ahead of you to grow. Very powerful book, really helps you understand like how to actually run a real business in the 21st century, not so much just how to model what other people are doing, how to think for yourself, which is powerful. Next is Alex Becker's 10 Pillars of Wealth. Alex Becker's writing is kind of controversial. He's kind of, really unnecessarily edgy, and I really don't like that about him, to be honest with you. But, he speaks his mind, and I honor that, but he doesn't have to, use the F-bomb so much and all that crap. And, he talks like the first word in this book is pornography. He's like, pornography, that's the first frickin' word. And the reason why is because he talks about how his buddy runs a porn site, and the porn site generates a bunch of money, and he talks about, why, you know, the pillars of wealth are essentially detaching yourself from your business, and he uses his porn site as an example, which I think is really stupid, but at the same time, you know, he's a multimillionaire, and not that you want to be a multimillionaire off of porn sites, but what I am saying is that in this book, he lays out what it actually means to run a business that you're separated from, how to actually scale a business that you can then eventually maybe sell, or how to actually start something that brings real raw value to the marketplace, what it actually means to get out there and sell a service. Because ultimately that's all that entrepreneurs do, they're salesmen. A lot of people try to beat around the fact that all an entrepreneur is a salesman, whether they sell the product or they hire a team to sell the product, or whether they design the product or it's somebody else's product, or, you know, they hire a team to design the product, whatever it is, you know. They are taking a product or a service to market, and they're creating systems to sell it for them and creating systems to bring value to the people who buy it. So this is a really neat book on that topic, and I highly, highly recommend that so that you really understand like what it means to run a legitimate business, because that's one of those books that was very eye-opening for me when I first read it. Next, this is the book that got me into like the, you know, personal development space. This is Intentional Living by John Maxwell. I read this, actually I listened to this via Audible, and it encouraged me to cut some people out of my life, encouraged me to really start to pave my own life, and you know, John Maxwell will forever be one of my favorite authors just because of his integrity and just the way that he holds himself, and he's a very people person, which I admire, and I strive to be more charismatic and more of a people person myself. And so Intentional Living essentially talks about how, you know, a lot of people are living an apathetic lifestyle of just kind of floating and just kind of doing whatever. But he talks about, look, you know, you are the author of your life. You are in control in every single way. And he breaks down excuses. He maybe breaks down mental blocks that keep you from believing that you can be what you want to be. And he lays out a path. He lays out like a map of how you can change yourself, how you can change your identity so that you can become the person that you want to be, which is just extraordinarily powerful. Highly recommend that book. Next is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and this book you can probably tell is a little bit ripped up and a little bit crazy because I've read it over a lot. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is a book written by a dude named Stephen R. Covey, and the book talks about, well, obviously the 7 habits of highly effective people, but the 7 habits are things like, you know, habit number 3 is put first things first, like, you know, habit number 4 is think win-win. Habit number 5 is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And he dives deep into why those are important. And this book, the main thing that it taught me was, you know, why, I think one of the habits is diligence, like in the small areas, right? And so we talked about how, you know, you have this circle of influence, this little ring around you of the things that you influence. And the better you influence the small things that are within your influence, the quicker and the more effectively your influence grows. So if you're good with small things, you're going to get more things. And, you know, maybe you're familiar with that concept. It's been spoken about like in the Bible, it's been spoken about by a ton of people, but he lays out why that actually works and why that's a thing, and why doing the small things well turns into larger blessings. And that's the main thing that I took away from this book, but there's tons more in there, just so much more in there about like establishing good relationships, about, you know, thinking win-win, how to think win-win with somebody. Next book is As a Man Thinketh, and this is a book that I've, again, read probably over 100 times now, just because of how valuable it is. It's super short, super lean book, not much to it in terms of words, but it's a very hard read, and it's really, every single sentence is just like another revelation, right? And the book is on the premise that, you know, what you think about becomes who you are, and who you are becomes your reality. So ultimately, if you control your thoughts, you control your reality, right? And you control who you become. And I agree with that. And it's not, there's nothing there's nothing woo-woo about that. That's just fact, right? Your thoughts become action, your action becomes identity, and identity and action fuel each other, and eventually that creates your circumstances, and your circumstances ultimately mirror your thoughts. So if you can control your thoughts, and you control the things that come into your head and the things that stay in your head, and you learn how to not just push down bad thoughts, but to eliminate them fully and cleanse yourself of things that, you know, harm you, then you have full control. And this is a really powerful book on that topic, and I highly, highly recommend it. If there's any one book on this list that you absolutely must read, it's this one. Whether you're an entrepreneur, you're in ministry, whatever it is that you're doing, I don't really care if you're being intentional in any way and you're trying to build something bigger than yourself. This is a must-read book for anybody trying to do that. Next, more on the marketing end, once again, for digital marketers. Seth Godin, All Marketers Tell Stories. Essentially, you know, Seth Godin is a digital marketer himself. If you look up the word Seth, his website comes up first, which just tells you how good of a marketer he is. And he talks about in this book how, you know, every marketer, essentially all they're doing is telling a story that helps somebody break their false beliefs and helps them understand that the result that I have, the service or product that I have, is the bridge to get them to where they want to be. Because all selling is, and this book doesn't talk about this specifically, but all selling is taking someone from a current situation to a desired situation. And the whole reason the world has an economy and the reason the economy ticks is because people wake up every morning, you know, trying to buy that desired situation. So you have a current and a desired situation. The bridge between the two is a story, and that's what Seth Godin talks about in this book. The story between somebody's current and their desired situation. The current and the desired situation and the economy ticking, that's stuff I learned somewhere else. But he talks about how to tell good stories and how to get people vested into a brand through stories, and this is just massively important. Deals with human psychology, deals with you know, influencing people. Massively important book, and I highly, highly recommend it. Lastly, two books that I'm going to pull from Audible here, and these are both books that I've listened to in full. Highly recommend both of them. First is Cybernetics, and I don't know if you can read that. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, but that's the name. Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Maybe you can see the name there. I don't know if you can or can't. And this is such an important book for me because maybe you watched my video on identity. But having a identity that is, you know, aligned with your goals is the ultimate thing that you can change about yourself. So Cybernetics, you know, what does that mean? Well, psycho is psychology. Cybernetics essentially talks about how, you know, it's computing. It's a process. Cyber, you know, means it's a process. It's almost digital. It can take problems in, rearrange them, and spit out a solution. So if you can change your identity, naturally you'll begin to create solutions in your life that you didn't know you were capable of doing. And it's, you know, it talks about how some athletes have to go through identity change before they can truly compete. You know, business people have to go through identity change, which I've personally had to go through in order to create results for myself. In order to make more money, I've had to go through identity change, right? So hugely important book. Highly recommend that you read it. I learned a ton from it. It's just so crucial. And then lastly is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. You can see the cover there. And this was a book written by a guy who survived a Nazi camp, and he essentially recalls all of his experiences. And the book, its general theme is that despite our circumstances, we have freedom, because there's our core freedoms of decisions and how we choose to view the world and how we choose to hold ourselves cannot be taken away. There's no way for even a Nazi camp to take that away from you. And so he talks about his experiences for the first half of the book. And then in the last half of the book, he talks about how despite all these things I went through, here's how I maintained my humanity. Here's how I maintained, you know, the spiritual essence of man. Here's how I came back and wrote a best-selling book and became, you know, world-renowned for my works, despite having spent, you know, I think it was like 5 years or so. I'm not sure exactly how long it was, actually. Maybe I'm totally off on that number. But a large amount of time in a camp being dehumanized and on the brink of death for most of it. So, massively important book. Highly recommend that you read it if you feel ungrateful for the circumstances you're in and you feel like maybe, you know, your circumstances are the problem. That's a book that you need to read to show you that your circumstances are absolutely not the problem and that you're just lying to yourself to make yourself feel comfortable. So, that's my recommended reading. Those are 10 books for you that you absolutely must read. And I don't expect you to read them, you know, within the next week, but maybe make it your 2019 library. Read one of these a month or so, or, you know, some people read a book a week, so maybe some of you have this done in like a month and a half or 2 months or so. Actually, no, 2 months is only 8 weeks, but you get the point. So, there you go. Hope you enjoyed. I'm hoping that somebody takes away one of these books, reads it, and it changes their life, because every single one of these books is a life-changing book. Especially if you're an entrepreneur like myself, and you're trying to grow something bigger than yourself, or you're trying to live intentionally. You know, business and intentional living tie together for me. It's the same principles, it's the same stuff, and so whenever I read a business book, it really applies in tons of other areas as well. So once again, hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like down below. I've got all the links to these books, Amazon links down below if you want to check them out, as well as the Amazon links to the Audible books, even though those are on Audible. If you want to get the physical copies, you can get those as well. So thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.